Stroud's MP says the assessment system for key benefits is flawed after hearing some are waiting up to 10 months. This issue, constituents are telling the Labour politician appeals for personal independent payments, which is replacing disability living allowance, is taking too long. Gloucestershire County Court, who processed the appeal, say they are recruiting extra staff now to speed up the process. This week, David Drew brought the issue in at Prime Minister's Question. Speaking in Parliament, he said the wait is causing hardship for some.
During that period of time, constituents are now losing Motability cars and suffering enormous hardship. Will the Prime Minister promise to get a grip of this and to make sure that this hardship is not endured any longer?
Yeah. Theresa May said the government is looking at what's causing the delays.
Of course, it's important that people are able to have their appeals heard in a timely fashion. And my right honourable friend, the Work and Pensions Secretary, is looking at exactly this issue to see what can be done in the tribunal system to ensure that people get a more timely result.
We'll hear from David Drew in a moment. First of all, political reporter for Radio Gloucestershire, Hayley Mortimer, has been to meet a couple from Cam who are going through the process at the moment.
You know, for the first 2 years, and I just start crying. I just cried because I wanted to work. My CV was on the computer, and I used to have 5 phone calls a day off of me jobs. It's horrible.
Julie French has been registered disabled since 2011 after being diagnosed with Addison's disease, a long-term adrenaline disorder that causes pain and fatigue. A former nurse, Julie receives a disability living allowance, but this benefit is slowly being replaced by PIP, a personal independence payment. The amount people get depends on how their condition affects them, not the condition itself, and claimants are assessed by a health professional to work out the level of help they can get.
You have to have PIP. What is personal independence? Designed to help disabled people live more independently and support those with the greatest need.
Julie is waiting to be assessed, but her husband Tony has already been through the process and they're appealing the decision.
Last year he had a catastrophic bleed where he almost died, sat next to me, and he's unable to work anymore due to that. But that was the grounds for appeal, that he wasn't assessed correctly. The paramedic who was sat here asked my husband to walk from where you're sat to the back door, which is 4.5 metres, and that assessment said that he could walk 200 metres. Well, it wasn't assessed. He walked there, had a rest and came back, and she just said he wasn't short of breath, but he was just walking to the door. Do you know what I mean? They're just not assessing people correctly. And as a nurse for all those years, I can see. This is all Tony's.
The appeals process has already taken 10 months, with dozens of letters to show for it.
21st of September it started. It's all toing and froing, and now the toing and froing has stopped. And we're waiting for the court will decide to give us a date to go to court, or the court, in their process, will look at all the evidence and decide, hopefully without us having to go to court, which being Gloucester, and there's a long waiting list. It's very stressful because you don't know what you're doing. We don't know from 1 month to another. You might get a letter saying not having anything else anymore, we're taking the whole lot away. Yeah, it's sad. It's sad for people who are honest.
Well, in the statement, the Ministry of Justice says we sympathise with this individual and we are speeding up the tribunal process in Gloucestershire by recruiting additional panel members and making better use of courtroom technology. An urgent hearing application can be made in exceptional cases where waiting times are excessive. Department for Work and Pensions says PIP takes a much wider look at the way a person's health condition or disability impacts on them on a daily basis. We're committed to continuously improving assessments and have announced we're piloting the video recording of these. Under PIP, 30% of claimants receive the highest rate of support compared to 15% under disability living allowance. Stroud's MP David Drew is with me now. Good morning to you.
Hello, Mark.
What evidence is there that how we compare with the rest of the country?
Well, we're worse. I mean, the fact is that there is a delay in many parts of the country, but sadly we seem to be way out of kilter from all the research I've done.
So what research have you done? This is Cardiff and Bristol, is it?
I did put a parliamentary question in and got some delays. I mean, clearly people could appeal to another centre, but of course they've got to get to another centre. And if their mobility vehicle's taken away, which could well happen, as I said in Prime Minister's questions, because of the length of the delay in hearing the appeal, then people are facing double jeopardy. This is just not acceptable.
I mean, the reality is, isn't it? One of the key questions is, yes, there is a delay and there's a problem with the system. People get that. But it's how many of those people actually win that appeal, so they're losing out on what they should have had. Now, the government says the number of appeal victories actually just represents 4% of all PIP cases.
Well, we're told the figure is 68% of successful appeals, which tends to suggest the original decision is widely wrong. Now, I don't know where they come up with this 4% figure from, but sadly, all the evidence is if someone can get through the appeal process, they win their appeal, because there is such a discretion, such a difference between the original decision and sadly the family you featured in Cam is typical of it. People are making arbitrary judgments on whether someone can walk or whether someone's got the ability to cater for themselves without this benefit, and it's widely wrong. And I think this is the difficulty with them. They have to delay. Remember, they get no support during that period of time. They lose everything, and that is just horrendous.
You're hearing that things like from the ministry, we sympathise and we are speeding up the tribunal process. Are you confident that the wheels are in motion to speed up the process?
Well, it's a bit late. I mean, again, I would hope that they are speeding up the process, because we have a particular problem here with our delay. But again, it's 30 weeks with no money for someone who's disabled and got no means to look after themselves. Is that acceptable? I mean, we're on 41 weeks for PIP and 30 weeks for employment support allowance. I mean, again, really what should happen is get the decision right in the first place, and then an appeal within a few weeks, not months, and that's the way we have to see things going. We are picking on the most vulnerable people in our society for reasons I do not know.
Well, they'll say once you go through the PIP process, let's forget the process, let's go through the essence just to end the interview. It's more generous in the long term. 30% of claimants receive the highest rate of support compared to 15% under the disability living allowance. So briefly, when you get through the process, it's a fairer system is the claim from the government, and some people will be much better off underneath it.
Well, the stress that people are put through is unbelievable. And when you heard the tears of the lady in question, I mean, remember, some people are suffering from mental health problems, and there's a lot of evidence that people will not even go through the appeal process. I don't know how they live without this support, but it is about putting people under undue stress. Let's get the decision right. I mean, a lot of these people shouldn't be undergoing these further capability assessments anyway. Now, the government has moved on that and said that people with genuine long-term conditions should not be put through this process. They should be just transitioned onto the new arrangement straight away.
David Drew, Labour MP for Stroud, thank you for joining me this morning. If you are going through that process right now, doesn't have to be today, get a chance to email me, get in touch, we'll come back to it. Cummings@bbc.co.uk.